Today's notes are on multiplying matrices. The first step is to check to see if the dimensions allow you to multiply the matrices. The dimensions for each matrix are below, and we want to remember that dimensions are listed by row times column. Alright, so if I have a 3 by 2 matrix and a 2 by 2 matrix, in order to multiply them together, the numbers on the inside here must be the same. It doesn't matter what numbers are on the outside of the dimensions, but the number on the inside of the dimensions must be the same in order for us to multiply. So after you decide whether or not you can multiply them, the second step is to set up the answer matrix by using the number of rows and columns from the first matrix, the rows from the first matrix, and the number of columns from the second matrix. Right, so if we look at our dimensions again, the 3 by 2 and the 2 by 2, I use the inside ones to determine if I could multiply them. I'm going to use the outside numbers to determine what is going to be the size of my answer matrix. Alright, after you set up your answer matrix, you are going to start multiplying by the corresponding entries from row 1 in the first matrix by the corresponding entries in column 1 in the second matrix. So I'm going to multiply -1 by 4, and I'm going to add that to 5 times 6. So I'm working across the rows in the first matrix and down the column in the second matrix. These values are going to correspond to my answer matrix to row 1, column 1. If I want to figure out what goes in row 1, column 2, I would multiply across row 1, but now I'm going to multiply down column 2. For row 2, column 1, I'm multiplying across row 2, but down column 1. For row 2, column 2, I'm multiplying across row 2 and down column 2. And I'm going to continue this until I get all parts of my answer matrix filled, and I add the two sets of multiplications together to get my final answer matrix. Alright, let's go through and actually do an example. So please look at the next page so we can look at example 1. The first thing we're going to do is state whether the product of AB is defined, so that means can I multiply them. So for my 2 by 4 and 4 by 3 matrix, the inside numbers are the same, so I can say that it is defined, and I can say that my answer matrix, so A times B, is going to be a 2 by 3 matrix, and I'm getting this from the numbers on the outside. So then, if I look at example 1b, now I have a 1 by 4 matrix and another 1 by 4 matrix. the inside numbers are not the same, so this is not defined. Right, for example 2, we're going to start by finding A times B. So the first thing I want to do is check the dimensions. The first one is a 2 by 2 matrix. The second one is a 2 by 2 matrix, so they're going to be the same. They're both going to be 2 by 2, which means that I can multiply them together. So I'm going to set up my answer matrix. And I can use these lines to help me keep them separate. So here's row 1 and row 2. This is going to be column 1 and column 2. So I'm going to be working across the first matrix and down the columns of the second matrix. So to start, I'm going to have 4 times negative 4, and this is going to be added to 1 times 1. So I worked across the top row of the first matrix, down the first column of the second matrix. Now, because I want to fill in the box for row 1, column 2, I'm going to work down the second column. So I would have 4 times negative 3 plus 1 times 2. Then I'm going to move down to row 2, and I'm back to column 1. So this is going to be 0 times negative 4 plus negative 2 times 1. My last box, I'm going to work across row 2 and down column 2. So I would have 0 times negative 3 plus a negative 2 times 2. And we're going to go ahead and simplify these. So I get negative 16 plus 1 in the top left, negative 12 plus 2 in the top right, 0 minus 2 in the bottom left, and 0 minus 4 in the bottom right. This gives me an answer matrix of negative 15, negative 10, negative 2, and negative 4. Here's our final answer. Please see if you can do example 2b. So now you're multiplying b times a. So make sure you switch around the rows and columns that you're using. Okay. We're going to do one more together, and that's going to be 3a. And we are going to find b times the quantity of a plus c. And we want to make sure that we complete inside the parentheses first. So first I'm going to add a and c together. So I want to check, make sure that they have the same dimensions in order to add them together, which they do. So I'm going to have matrix B, and it's going to be multiplied by the A value plus the C value in each entry. Which is going to turn into B times 2, 1, 3, 3. Right, and I'm going to replace B with its matrix. So 0, 1, -3, -2 times 2, 1, 3, 3. And I'm going to start multiplying these together. Because this is a 2 by 2 matrix, my answer matrix is also going to be 2 by 2. So I'm going to set up my answer matrix. And now I can start plugging in some values. So I'm working across the first matrix and down the second. So in row 1, column 1, I have 0 times 2 plus 1 times 3. Row 1, column 2 is 0 times 1 plus 1 times 3. Row 2, column 1 is -3 times 2 plus -2 times 3. And row 2, column 2 is -3 times 1 plus -2 times 3. So if I look at simplifying inside the matrix, I get 0 plus 3 in the first entry, 0 plus 3 in the second entry, -6 minus 6 in the third entry, the bottom left, and in the bottom right I get -3 minus 6. So if I simplify one more time, my final answer matrix is 3, 3, -12, and -9. Alright, please see if you can do example 3b by yourself. So first multiply B and A together, then multiply B and C together, then add those two matrices that you just created together to get your final product. We will talk about example 3 and example 4 tomorrow in class.